Catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.
A lot of changes we're experiencing right now. The tech industry continues to grow with a low barrier to entry, where there used to be high and very narrow need for women to come in. Like women, their achievements were so narrow that there were not really many in history book. When you look at the world, how machines and men were like the first programmers, you rarely hear about women. But right now, all that is changing and women are coming into this space. I've got my guest. Let me introduce my guest before really talking around the conversation of the day. I've got Ife Dayo and Nikki Koorbanally with me on the show. We're going to be talking around scaling your career in tech as a female. I can point out that even as a female, you need some of this information, and also some guys, you can get a little bit of information from here because it applies. But we're doing this in commemoration of the International Women's Day. So in case we're not mentioning men, we're going to be talking about women. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Ife.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, Shalakwe also just joined us. I'm talking about the tech industry, how it's growing, especially in Africa. And of course, this means high demand for professionals and career opportunities also for women. But women now are getting into the career. We're seeing women thriving. We're seeing that women are becoming directors, CEOs, startup owners, and they're really doing good. But a lot of women have the fear of what next to do. How can they scale their career? What can they do next to advance? So to kickstart this conversation, I would like for you to introduce yourself for my audience, because I am aware of who I'm talking to. I can see your videos, but they don't know who you are. So let's start off with Nikki. Nikki was here first, and of course we moved to Ife Dayo and Shalakwe. Please do us the honor of introducing yourself.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on the show. I am Nikki Koorbanally. I am the CEO of mLab. mLab is a digital skills and startup accelerator based here in Pretoria, in Gauteng, South Africa, and really excited to be part of this event that is looking at how do we really promote and support women in technology. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for honoring our invite. Hi, Ife Dayo.
Hi, my name is Ife Durosinmi-Etti. I'm the founder of HerEconomy. HerEconomy is currently a savings platform for women, but we're slowly transitioning into becoming the first bank for women in Nigeria. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to just, having a fantastic conversation with everyone else.
All right, thank you. We look forward to having an amazing conversation also. Hi, Shalakwe. Good to see you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Solape Hammond. I work for the Lagos State Governor as the Special Advisor on the Sustainable Development Goals and Investment. I also have the pleasure of sitting on the Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council and the Kaita Chiaba project, where we're trying to build the largest tech campus in Africa. So very, very front and center on some of the initiatives of the government around fostering tech.
I like that. I like that the government is also showing support, because a lot of women, when I speak with them, they're always like, I want to do this, but I don't know where to go. And having the government back them up and help them with supply of setting equipment that they need, like laptops, like trainers and all of that stuff, I think that's a good move in the right direction. Thank you for coming on the show. So to kickstart this conversation, I talked about how I've been having conversation with a couple of females, young ladies, and a bit of other older women who are trying to see if they can switch their career to tech. As everyone would admit, tech seems to be quite lucrative lately. Everybody's looking at increasing their paycheck, and some people are still trying to navigate what career path to follow. So, but there is always a clause with, I don't know what to do or where to go or how to fit in. So how do we tackle that, and how do we advise them in picking up like a career path in tech? Shalakwe, you can go first. I know the Lagos State government, they've got a lot they're doing in that sector.
Excellent. So for me, I understand this is a sector. We talked a little bit yesterday, and some of the things we highlighted were the fact that tech seems so mysterious. It seems very esoteric. People are worried they may not, that it's hard, it's difficult. They don't know where to start, as you've said. But the good thing is, the best place to start is on your own computer or even on your phone. Look at what's available. And one of the things I'd love to point out is the fact that there are many non-tech roles in tech. So you can be a journalist in tech, you can be a writer, you can write materials, you can be a data analyst, you can be an information architect, you can be a design person, you can be the business strategy person, you can be the finance person, you can be the legal person. So you can start with what you know and see how that role translates or how that role operates in tech. And so you can use what you know already as a foot-in, because at least that way you have some base knowledge. If you're trying to learn something brand new, there are also a lot of resources. So Udemy, Coursera, several boot camps. There are many ways to get into this world free. So start with what you know, start with what you have, start exploring in the comfort of your own home where there's no one to judge you. That would be my advice. Just start to see what's possible. If you're struggling to kind of understand how to make sense of it, though, there are also many communities you can join. One of the things I always say is please join a hub. Hubs they're fundamental, I think, in the building of the ecosystem. They're there. You'll find people like yourself. You get access to information about programs and initiatives, and you can learn and struggle through with other people just like yourself who are also trying to learn the same thing. And then, of course, lastly, as you said, there are a lot of government resources. So the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund has a Lagos Innovates program, and they give vouchers to people who want to do things in tech, startups in tech, so new tech businesses. They have an ideas hub where you can submit any ideas that you're thinking, and then they can work with you with a team of members to help you, think about that idea and make it make sense. They also have all sorts of training programs. And now, very excitingly, we started these educational loans around tech. So if you want to learn deep tech, you want to learn AI, you want to learn about blockchain, whatever it is you're trying to learn in tech, there are also loans that you can obtain, soft loans. These LSETF loans are somewhere in the range between 5 and 9% in Naira, so you can imagine. And you can get a loan to help you learn more in a more structured way. So really the thing is to take a leap. There's so many resources out there. They're not difficult to find. If you just put it in Google or, some any sort of search engine, what you want to learn or that you even just want to learn, you can start off from there.
All right, well said, Solape. Thank you so much. I noted the loan because it's kind of very important right now as a credit facility for people who are trying to scale up their businesses or their tech career. We'll definitely come back to that. Ife Durosinmi-Etti, how can we tackle these challenges of women trying to get into tech? Lavina, thank you for joining in.
Hi, thanks
for having me.
All right. So if I would speak now, then Nikki, and I'll come to Lavina because she has to do introduction of herself on the show.
Okay. So my response was actually going to be very similar to what Madam Solape had mentioned. So there's so many roles in technology that you can do that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to code. But what I'll just mention some of those roles. For example, there's product management. So if you're somebody that has ever worked as a brand manager, I think product management would be quite interesting for you. Or something, if you've worked in marketing, I think that product management would be quite interesting for you because you're communicating or standing in the middle of technology and the business, basically transmitting information in a way to the people who are coding to make sure that it's in line with what your users want and how you want your product to actually evolve. So there's also UI UX. So if you're somebody like a graphic designer or just has a flair for things looking good, you can start with UI UX. So basically that's the person who designs the front face of what the technology platform looks like, whether it's a mobile app or whether it's a web platform. Like she mentioned, there are other things like data analysts, journalists that work in tech. So like companies like TechPoints that are based here in Nigeria, they actually offer very good career opportunities for people who want to, get into that industry and actually work for the tech industry. So there's so many things that you can do as a woman. But in addition to that, it's important for you to build a fantastic network. And one of the ways that you can do that is to join communities. So it would help you navigate some of the issues that you would face on your journey into the tech world. Seek mentors. So And so as you're seeking a mentor, it's important for you to also be a person of value. So don't just go and just see how you can take, grab. Just look for people who align with your values and see how you can also add your value to them. And adding value to them can even be something as simple as helping them out with their social media. Some people don't have a flair for social media. They don't know how to create reels. If you want a mentor and you see that the mentor maybe is lacking in that way, and you think it's something that will be good for the person, maybe personal brand, for example, you can actually help in that way. For me, one of the ways I've been able to add value to one of my mentors was even her child. So she needed somewhere where her child could do an internship. And I was like, oh yeah, he can join us and do an internship with us. So there's just different ways that you can add value and ways that you can build very good relationships with people that can help you on your own career journey. Also be somebody who is willing to receive feedback, which is very, very key. There's so many things that you do that on this journey that can be an epic fail, but it doesn't matter. If you fail, you get up and try again. But it's important for you to, get that feedback so that, you use it to better yourself, not just go again and make the same mistake again. Yes. So I've also set personal goals for yourself. If you want to learn, if you want to join the technology space or have a career in technology, don't just sit down and think it's going to fall on you. Or don't just go and you can start applying for roles, but you need to take steps to ensure that you're actually skilled enough to do that role. So I'll give an example. If you want to work in product management, don't just think anybody's going to hand over a product management role to you. Seek out companies that probably need those roles and tell them, you don't even have to pay me. I just want to come and learn. I want to work under your product manager and see how you can learn. And if you're a person of integrity, they'll most likely give you that opportunity, and that can even be the step in stone that you need for, your career. So those are some of the tips I have for a young woman who wants to transition into the tech industry.
All right. I heard from you, network, use your network, also mentorship, internship, getting feedback, and of course, offering to help or to work. I would come back to that because there's a lot of it's a bit tricky around there if we're looking at Africa and, of course, the work-based force and how people have been moving lately, demanding for 4-day week, and some people also saying they can't work for free. So I would still come back to mentorship and internship journey. But right now, Nikki, do you have more to add to this?
Yes, definitely. I like to think of, as a person, if you compare yourself to a business and if you think there's so much competition. So if I just think in terms of youth unemployment is so rife, what is going to make you stand out? We're living in this fourth industrial revolution, and I almost feel like if women don't adapt, you are into this tech space. Almost think of you as not being able to survive, right? We're in this world of survival of the fittest. And so if you think of yourself as a business, what is my brand? What is going to make me unique? Think about the fact that knowledge is power, and for me, if there's one key takeaway, it's what the other speakers have mentioned about skilling oneself. Because if you skill up yourself, become an expert on a topic, once you immerse yourself in that particular topic, it doesn't feel so overwhelming that you're now in this tech world, So let's say that artificial intelligence is something that excites you and that you're passionate about. You build your skills in that field, you join communities that you can be part of, identify a female role model, or mentor that can help you grow in that area. And so the more you invest in yourself, building your brand, building your reputation, you will almost become that, let's say, entity that is building, in a sense, this competitive advantage, So I would just say, don't be afraid of tech. It might be new, it might seem complicated, but you know what? By virtue of the fact of being women, we used to working in complicated areas. We used to working with complex family issues. So I would just say be bold, be brave, don't be afraid, but really focus on investing in yourself so that you can start standing out of the crowd.
All right, well said, Nikki. Lavina, you like to take it up from there. We're talking about some of the challenges that women face in getting into tech and, of course, moving through their career.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And I think it's awesome contributions by all the panelists. I would probably tackle it more from a management perspective and a leadership role. So, within that itself, we've probably seen and, heard a lot of, boardroom sort of scare scenarios. Equally so, we've kind of seen and heard, the lack of support that women are given at those levels. And I think the numbers globally kind of speak and scream out for it. Another area is around investments, and as much as you can get immersed into the space, also maybe start experimenting in terms of getting involved on the investor side, on delving into different application areas, maybe the research end of things. Policy has become quite a big sort of area as well. And again, I think it's just the love and the curiosity for technology should allow us to just be carried. And, the conversation for women somewhat aren't only just functioned or based around the whole gender gap, but it's also an economic gap. And, that has its own ramifications and its own sort of centering across the sort of continent. And we know that largely most females sort of run their households. From an Africa context, we know that community is pretty much the centerfold of how we need to approach or deal with things. So, equally within companies, whether you're a fresh startup or whether you're a well-established corporate, make room for different types of policies. So, for example, an extended maternity leave policy, family leave. There's some startups that are actually going into the whole menstrual cycle leave. So there's different variations of things that one could look at in terms of becoming a lot more supportive to fellow, females in the space itself. And, again, a lot can be done and a lot can be said. Thank you for your contribution. Even though we didn't get an introduction of Lavina, please, can you give us a quick introduction? Thanks so much. I'm Lavina, known as the AI mom, and my sort of background has been in technology for over 25 odd years, and seen as one of the experts or thought leaders on the continent. Okay, thank you for joining us, Lavina. From everyone, I could actually just quickly run through what you said. Shalakbe mentioned something around networking, loans availability, and of course, Fedaya contributed saying mentorship, internship, getting feedback, and Nikki also saying looking into adaptation for skill, like upskilling, and of course branding, seeing yourself as a business, and talking about the virtue of a woman, which I'm going to come back to pretty soon. And Lavina also shared building curiosity, and of course looking into boardrooms and management situation around the office, and of course investment opportunity, and of course looking into research policies. All of this we're going to touch on in this few minutes we get to spend together. But first, I would like us to go back to what Nikki said around the virtue of a woman, because most people, they employ women, but they usually ask, so why do I need to employ a woman? Or why do I need a woman in my business? So if there is a skill or a special ability that you all can each share with me that makes a woman's position very, very crucial and necessary in the workplace or in building businesses.
I was saying that we currently have two genders in the world, right? Women and men. And we're building different solutions, and people who are using it are both women and men. So if we have only one gender making the decision, then obviously they're not going to consider the other gender, not because they're wicked or anything, but the honest truth is that sometimes they don't feel what we feel. So they don't have to have kids by themselves. Like, they don't have to actually carry the pregnancy for 9 months. So they don't necessarily understand why, women should get so and so. So, and there are just different reasons why it's important for you to have women at the table making those decisions, so that everybody can be considered, so that every aspect can be looked into. If you look at countries where women even took the lead. For example, when we had the pandemic, the countries where women took the lead actually did better than the countries where, women didn't necessarily have a voice. So it's been proven at different levels, different times, even with lending, that, women, pay back. Women sometimes, a lot of the time, are very good decision makers. When you look at companies, even in Nigeria, a company like Here's Holdings, where they have a lot of women at C-suite level, when you look at the numbers, they are doing well. So it's been proven time and time again that it's important that women are at the helms of affairs, so that when decisions are being made, all aspects that and nobody, is left behind. So that's the importance of having women being at the table. The benefits of representation cannot be overemphasized. So women just have to be there, and it's important for them to be skilled women. So I'm not one of those people that would say, oh, because it's a woman, give her that opportunity. No. It's important for the woman to also be skilled, which is why, we're doing all we can in terms of like mentoring, the next generation, ensuring that they are going to school and they're not relegated to the back and all that, so that as they get older in their careers and they have mentors and other women to look up to, they can make, some of the important decisions that are needed to take themselves, their businesses, or the country to the next level.
Well said, Ife. Thank you so much. Lavina?
Yeah, I think, you have, you've asked such a cool question. What is that one key attribute from a woman, right? And I think for me, it really resonates around empathy. We have the ability to really process emotions on a different level compared to males. And that's something that is used advantageously. There's been lots of studies done in this space around empathy, leadership, and, what is the difference between males and females? Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? From a scientific perspective. But overall, I think, the ability to resonate and to understand where everyone is coming from. As Nikki kind of mentioned, we have the ability to then take all of that, as complex as it is, and then, process it in such a way where everyone walks out with the least amount of impact, because we do that in our family environments, we do that in our friends' environments, and naturally so in a work environment as well.
All right. Solape, do you want to contribute to that?
I absolutely do, and I really agree with what has been said earlier. And I was going to take off from a point Lavina had made earlier, actually, around what women can also do to create a more conducive environment. Just as Sheryl Sandberg said in her book in Lenient, people sometimes they're not doing it because they're evil. They're doing it because they've never walked in those shoes. And so they don't think of the things. So, for example, she talked about when she was pregnant and it was so far for her to park, and she mentioned, you should have maternity parking, in front of the building. And they were like, we've never thought about that, because they're never going to be pregnant, right? So they won't understand what it's like to have to slog by with your big stomach and your swollen feet. Similarly, one of the startups I was so proud of being part of was a startup in the UK called Mums in Tech. It was founded by June Angelides. She's actually received an MBE from the UK government for the work she did enabling women. But she used to work for a tech bank, and then she got pregnant. She had a 1-year maternity leave, which is also great. And so she figured, I'd love to learn to build an app. And she couldn't find anywhere where she could learn to build an app and take her baby. She was a young mother. She didn't have any support system apart from her husband in the UK. So she needed someone she could take her baby. And then she was like, why can't I have somewhere where I can take my baby? I'm sure there are other women who also want to use this time to learn. And so she created a platform called Mums in Tech. And she reached out to great companies that started up supporting them and would give them their boardroom space and pay for minders to help take care of the babies. And she created this really, really unique, boot camp for women, for new moms to learn. And of course, anyone else who wants to join is welcome, to learn in an environment where they can be there with their babies, their minders to help them, their areas for changing, their play areas for the kids. And it just became a huge thing. So June takes her kids everywhere that she goes, including, I think she probably even took them to 10 Downing when she went to get her MBE. She did all her work with her kids for the first 3-4 years. Of course, she quit and then just did Moms in Tech for a while, and then has gone now into venture capital. But really, it's up to us to create those environments. And it's not always very easy, because you do what you're used to. It takes us to sometimes look up and say, hey, should something be different? And if it should be different, what can it be and what can I do about it? And so instead of her building an app, she ended up building a company that was helping other women fulfill their tech dreams. But she found that's where her strengths and her passion actually really lay. So sometimes it's about us also changing the environment, bringing things that didn't exist. So for example, I think we should have female-only coding academies and tech schools, because the traditional environment is still mostly male-dominated, and it's great to be able to learn. But I think sometimes men and women may learn differently. So men may tend to learn. I feel men are more up for competitions, and whether it's pointless or there's a reason at the end of it, men are really great in competitive environments. Women are extremely good at collaborations. When you feel you're solving a problem, not even necessarily collaborations, they're more collaborative, I find, but also we're more motivated by solving a problem. So creating something that actually solves a problem, as opposed to creating something for the sake of itself. So shouldn't we be setting up environments where we have more women? They're not feeling daunted. They're not feeling overwhelmed by that extremely high testosterone competitive environment, and they're just creating around solutions. And so there are many thoughts around how we ourselves can start to think about our environment, question what we're seeing, and create what we want to see so that we can get more women in the game.
Well said, Solape. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure more women would have to have introspection and see where they can leverage their strength now with that few stories you've shared with us. Nikki, I'd like to take your contribution on why we need more women in the tech space.
Not to contradict what Solape has just said, but I feel quite strongly about the fact that when we talk about gender equity, it's really important for us to show that it's not one gender at the expense of the other, and so often when we are involved in these women development and support and empowerment programs, definitely, there's a deficit, there's a gap we're trying to fill. But I think it's really important for us to make men aware that it's not about women at the expense of men, for instance. And why we are trying to promote this is so that we can help them understand how important it is to embrace diversity. In South Africa in particular, we have multi-cultures, multi-races, and by just embracing diversity, you start realizing the richness of the output you eventually have. So if you're sitting at a boardroom, if you have these diverse views, if you harness that collective genius in the room, the outputs that you're trying to achieve are just so much richer, and like we were saying, women bring a very unique perspective to the table. We think holistically. We think often, what is almost like the systems view of things. We're not just thinking maybe hardcore tech. We're thinking about the soft skills and all of the other issues that a person might face, so we're not just focusing just on tech, we're focusing on the person as a whole, even in product development or technology development. It's about how do we bring holistic thinking? How do we embrace diverse views, diverse perspectives? And I think the sooner we all start realizing that, when we have this sort of equitable boardroom table that we can sit around, there is just so much richness that everybody can benefit from. It's a mutually beneficial outcome that eventually emerges, But it's just, for me, I almost feel like a lot of awareness, whilst we're focusing on women, we need to create a lot more awareness amongst our male counterparts that it's not at their expense, but it's about the richness, the holistic views, the different perspectives, and the value that women bring to the table. And by, not being conscious of this, you're actually doing society such a big disservice.
Thank you so much for that, Nikki. So we're going to move on to the main conversation, because we just had to set the tone for people listening so they know the reason why it's necessary to have women in that boardroom, to have women sitting in that role in making certain decisions. Because like I read in a book that said we are all a sum total of our environment and of course our history. As a woman, we come from diverse home and races and of course tribes, so bringing that to the workplace I think is very crucial and essential. But one thing about getting into tech is once you've broken into tech, it becomes like, oh, I'm here now, so what do I do? This is going to take me to the next question for those who just maybe switch into career, or girls who are looking to take up the career roles, or people who are just starting and still finding their way or navigating the grounds. So what are the goals that they should set in advancing their career or trying to scale up their career? Nikki, you can go first since you had the last word.
Okay, great. Thank you. If I think of the strengths that women have, I think it's really important for us to play to our strengths. And one of the things that I think about is we're not afraid to show vulnerability. And if you are in an environment that you're just entering into, don't be afraid to ask questions, to be inquisitive, to create opportunities for yourself. For instance, to shadow someone or ask to be an observer in a meeting or participate in a learnership or a job shadowing opportunity. And so, my advice would be, if you're entering into this new space, it's tech, it can be overwhelming. I would say, don't pretend that you know it all. Be hungry, be inquisitive. And one of the things, I also feel is we want to move away from this welfare mentality. Again, I'm speaking from my perspective. As women, I would demand an equal place at the table. I would be bold. If I feel like I'm not confident, how do I understand what my weaknesses are and try to find ways to correct those weaknesses, and like I say, by being hungry, being inquisitive, have that fire in the belly that shows, what, I'm not here for a handout. I'm not here for you to feel sorry for me or to give me extra special treatment, because I am deserving of an equal place at a particular platform, but I'm also willing to put in the effort, if I need to do some extra reading so I'm not left behind in terms of the conversation. If I want to be able to network and join other communities, I shouldn't be afraid to ask my supervisor or my boss. And, if you have a positive attitude, a positive outlook, there you will definitely get doors that close. You will definitely get responses that say no. You will definitely get sponsors that make you feel like you're not good enough and maybe you're not worthy or deserving of a particular opportunity. But that positive mindset, positive attitude, being willing to also put in the hard yards, for me, almost helps you create a path for success.
So I'll just move to Ife Dayo, if you can take some insights on setting goals for women or girls who look to advance their career in tech.
So I think everything Nikki has said, is in line with what I would have said.
Okay.
So basically just coming up with smart goals. So what do you want to do and work towards it? For example, it's part of also what I mentioned before. If you want to become a product manager, you go and do a course in product management and see how you can intern and get actual work experience. Because what you think you are interested in, you might actually not be interested in actually doing it as a job. So it's important for you to get the proper certification, because it will give you better opportunity as opposed to somebody who didn't have a particular qualification. And this qualification does not mean you have to go to proper school. There's so many free courses that you can do. Like Madam Solape mentioned, she said there's Udemy, there's Coursera, there's Product Dive in Nigeria here, where they have live sessions on product management. So they do trainings, actual structured trainings that spans over a couple of weeks, where you can actually get actual knowledge for that particular course. So it's important for you to not just be a dreamer and just a goal setter, just another goal setter. You're actually somebody who is going to, work towards your goals. And like I mentioned before, you can't do it by yourself. It's important for you to reach out to people, join communities, because it's very, very difficult, or it can be difficult navigating, this space alone. And let's be honest, when you come into tech, or my own experience in the tech industry, you realize that there are cliques. So people who are like the egbos in the tech industry. So the likes of Okwe was one of the founders of Jobraman. I think he's also affiliated with Google Host. So people like that, people like E, they have their own thing, and they actually mentor, the younger generation. There's also the likes of the fintechs, the likes of the founders of Kuda Bank, Piggyverse, who started in tech like 5 years ago. So there are definitely cliques and all of that, but it's important for you to see how, you can add value and be humble in yourself and teachable, so that if, you need help, when somebody is actually trying to help you, you don't look at it as if, what's this person feeling like? So be open to, receiving knowledge. Yeah, there are non-tech roles that you can do from where you are. You don't necessarily need to start learning Java and, all the coding terminologies, but start from where you are and see how, you can continue to improve on yourself and add value where you find yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Fedayo. Shalako, do you want to say something? Because of time constraint, I wanted to split my question so we get like 2 people answering same question and 2 other people answering another question. So do you want to contribute to that before I decide to start splitting?
Yes, just a quick contribution. I love that Ife talked about the people that you need to help you be able to achieve those goals that you're setting. And I think there are 3 categories of people that you need. You need your mentors. You need the person who can guide you, who's a senior person, and as Ife mentioned, the cabals and cliques, but find someone who has had a career that's similar to what you're trying to build, or it may even be in a completely different field. But if you're in a new space and you're trying to find your footing, it would be good to find at least one in that sector and listen to them and learn from them. Your career doesn't have to go the exact same way that theirs did, but there are always lessons that you can learn. The second person you need is your peer. I found, so when I was in university, we had a group, we studied together, and normally then it was very difficult. Every other year, maybe someone would get a first class or 2 people would get a 2-1. But we studied together and learned together. And that year, 3 of us got first classes, or 3 got first classes and 21 got 2-1, second class offers. So when you move together, it tends to be extremely good for all of you. You're learning and you're creating deliverables and results and achieving your goals at a much faster speed and a much higher rate than if everyone's trying to go on their own. So finding peers that you can collaborate with, learn with, do peer reviews with is extremely useful. And then the third is a champion. Someone who's going to be in those rooms where you are not, and they're having those conversations that you don't even know they're having. That's the person that will recommend you and say, hey, there's this woman down here, she hasn't gotten to, no one, your people may not know you, but you have that champion who will make that case for you in the room. I remember the former Emir of Kano, former Central Bank Governor, one of my all-time loves, His Eminence, Sanusi Lamido, mentioning that when he was in CBN, he was saying, why don't we have women in certain kinds of roles? And then a woman sent him a message and said, look at this deputy director and look at that other person. And he found out they had so many women, talented women, intellectual women who'd done great things, but just weren't being brought to the fore. So have a champion who's going to be in those rooms that you're not, to help you fight those battles, to help bring you up when there's the opportunity that could change your trajectory.
Absolutely. I love that, because sometimes I believe that success is transferable. I mean, if you move with champions, you'd also become a champion yourself. Lavina, do you have something to contribute so I can decide to now split my questions?
No, I think the ladies did a brilliant job covering it, so all good.
Oh, good. Okay, so we've been talking about career advancement, and I've heard networking, I've heard having support and putting yourself in rooms. This comes with responsibility. I mean, if you want to go forward, it means taking up more responsibility, higher earnings, and doing more meetings. Notwithstanding, as a woman, you still have your family duties and roles that you would be performing, like picking up the kids, cooking dinner, and trying to make sure everyone is good in the family. This can actually lead to burnout while trying to pursue success in the career. So how do you as a woman manage, let's come from personal situation right now, how do you manage not getting overwhelmed and burnout? If you want to go with this question.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm happy to actually even go first, because I actually went from, a 9-to-5 job that was non-tech to now in the tech industry. And so what I would even like to first point out that I think it's a lot easier to even have a more balanced life in tech, because a lot of roles you can actually have the hybrid roles or fully remote roles. So that's the first thing. Secondly, avoiding burnout. Like having that work-life balance and avoiding burnout are even two different conversations.
Yes,
but with work, I'll start with that. Like being able to navigate and having time to do everything can only happen when you build out that structure around you. So some of the things I was able to do was I created like a strong, solid network at home so that whether I'm there or not, things work. So for example, I have a lesson teacher that comes to my house every day, and I make sure it was every day so that I'm not missing out on assignments and things like that. So I make sure that I have a lesson teacher that comes. I make sure that even if I'm not available to pick my kids up from school, the driver and the nanny can go and pick up the kids from school. So having that structure in the house, makes it a lot easier for me. And when you have those people at home, it's one way to treat them well, because a lot of people they'll say, okay, I created structure, but they're not treating these people well. If you don't treat them well, how do you expect them to help you navigate through life? Sometimes, even if I don't give my nanny money to get a particular thing, she can use her money, and then when she comes back, she tell me, oh, madam, I used my money for this, so blah, blah, and I'll give her the money back. So it's important for you to have that, structure at home, and look at how other women around you have been able to navigate their homes, because I see homes that have two bankers, husband and wife, both of them are bankers, but they still have fantastic children with good manners and all that. So there is a way that you can navigate through life without thinking that you have to do everything by yourself. Always delegate at work and delegate at home as well. It's important for you to be able to do that. If not, things will be a lot more difficult for you to achieve. You wouldn't be able to travel at will if you need to travel. Let's say you want to go and do a fundraise. Let's say you need to go and pitch your business. Let's say you're in the middle of a meeting and you cannot get out of that meeting. Even leave your children in school. That would lead to things that are left for the kids and stuff like that. So let's say you're somewhere that doesn't have kids. It might lead to you even leaving some certain responsibilities that you're not necessarily meant to just leave to bear. So it's important for you to have that structure at home that can help you with having tech burnout, because it actually happens. Some of the things that you can do to navigate that is to create boundaries. So you don't have to be everywhere at the same time. You don't have to speak to everybody. You don't have to attend every speaking engagement or every networking activity. You need to create those boundaries so that you can actually help your mind. There was a time that in my life where I was working. I was speaking everywhere. I couldn't say no. I couldn't, just take out time for myself. At some point, I just had to say, you know what, these are the kind of speaking engagements I'm going to take on, and these are some I'm not going to take on. And if speaking engagements fall on a certain day, I'm not going to take it because of certain reasons. I want to be able to focus on my work, or I want to be able to do this or that. So just create those boundaries, and you see that they will help you in certain things, and create those boundaries in a way that you also don't hurt other people as well, because the truth is you also need people. Also, another thing that you can do is to take regular breaks to refresh your mind. So everything is not all about work. So on a Tuesday evening, I can decide to say I want to go to the beach, to just go and relax my mind, just deal with nature, just get my mind in a place where I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm refreshed, for the next day. So everything doesn't have to be, it's only on my birthday before I enjoy myself, before I do things that I'm happy about. So just take regular breaks to refresh yourself, refresh your mind, practice self-care. Go to the spa, get regular massages. I love massages, so that's something I do at least twice a month. And I see how relaxing it is, for me, and that really helps me. I prioritize my activities. So what I do to prevent me from just being too scattered and me thinking I have too many things to do at the same time, I work with my calendar. I don't let anything overwhelm me. I'm not confused about where I'm supposed to be. I work with my calendar, and I try not to do things outside of my calendar except I have the time. So I just make sure that everything is posted in my calendar, and I just every morning I go look at my calendar. What am I supposed to do today? Bam, 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 and I work with that. So it keeps me in check, and at the end of the day, I can go back and see if I was able to achieve everything I was able to do that day. And you see, once you start doing this often, it gives you that boost. It gives you that energy or that sense of fulfillment that you were able to actually do what you had planned to do.
So I heard scheduling and delegation, and also having boundaries, cutting time for work and when you're not available also. And of course, self-care, which is quite important for us as women to take good care of ourselves and relax our mind. Lavina, I think we can get from you what you do to manage burnout. and how you avoid it if possible?
Yeah, I think we've all sort of undergone some form of different cycles, right, within the workplace as females, whether it's coming from, the imposter syndrome to self-doubt syndrome to physically being, not present. And I think the best thing that I've learned over the years is to really try and bring yourself to just being you. And I know that sounds probably cliche, but there's a lot to actually unpack in that. By just being you and just being present, I think you tend to deal with a lot more, and you kind of really eliminate the emotional drain that we may sometimes carry or feel. Being you is something that you almost need to grow into as a female, and equally so men. And we need to allow each other the space to be able to do that. So, sometimes it could take years, sometimes it could take a matter of nanoseconds, and that's, for me, just speaks a lot of volume. With that, I think it allows you the ability to really show up. It allows you the ability to speak up, and it allows you the ability to support up. And for me, those are the kind of three areas. For years, I've always baselined my sort of contributions back to anyone around, right? So supporting could be supporting yourself, supporting upward or downward. Speaking up, it's speaking for yourself, it's speaking for, upper management, speaking for, colleagues, whatever the case may be. And, showing up for yourself, showing up for others in that space equally. So those three are like probably the most tangible things that one can do. And, the power of actually saying no is something that I learned, it was a difficult lesson, and I'm sure all the females here would tend to agree with, but that ability to actually say no is super priceless. Yeah. So for me, those are the kind of three.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned imposter syndrome. So I'm going to add this to the next question for Nikki and Solape. I know we've talked about taking up responsibility just because we want to advance our careers. And of course, we're learning how to draw the line. But do we, as women, believe that there is a term called work-life balance, if we can actually get that while we're still pursuing a career or trying to scale our career forward? And also, how do we manage imposter syndrome that stops us from taking up roles or going higher the ladder? So those are the questions for Nikki and Solape.
Thank you. For me, a very, I suppose, useful characteristic or a habit to build is just good discipline. And I find that, if you're disciplined about the fact that your life consists of so many different components, it consists of work, it consists of home, it consists of religion, it consists of hobbies, etc. And you almost have to dissect yourself a little bit and be conscious about, the speaker spoke about good planning, putting in structure, being organized. And I just find that work-life balance can come from just good planning. If you're disciplined about the fact that, you have set aside this to work from 8 to 5. So when you get home, you actually don't want to open up your laptop. And I know with many women, we can easily become workaholics. Like was mentioned, it's hard to say no. You want to take on more things because it's important to you and you're passionate about it. But if you realize that if you step out of, what you've planned and how you dissected yourself, you're actually impacting something else. Something is going to suffer. If you're taking on more work, it's at the expense of fun and family. Or if you're taking on too much family and fun, it's at the expense of work. And so if you're just disciplined about your approach, and if you're conscious about how you plan your life, it's easier to then manage the work-life balance. I know in reality, it's harder done, easier said than done. But if you hold yourself accountable, and if you say, well, actually, I'm straying away from my plan, or now I'm being a little bit naughty and, I said I'm going to close my laptop at a particular time, I should do that, and set yourself use your cell phone. Set yourself little alarms that beep. It's time to go home. It's time to book that massage that Ife was talking about.
Self-care.
And so yes, absolutely. And one of the other things that I feel is also important is one of the benefits of the COVID-19 pandemic is that employers have become so much more flexible. What was not condoned before about being able to pick up a child, or you've got family responsibilities. We've learned from the pandemic and lockdown that you can be flexible, and that some people might be better at working from 8 to 10 at night than from 2 to 4 when you've got responsibilities for your kids. And so I want to encourage the listeners to have the conversations with their employers. Even being in a leadership or management position in your organization, you can say to your PA or your subordinates, you know what, it's very difficult for me to have a meeting between 8 and 10 in the morning. So I just also think that more open conversations are really fruitful to have with your employer, with your employees, so that everybody understands your personal circumstances as well. And like I say, I think before the pandemic, we were, as employers, probably not so open to being as flexible. But I think now the environment is really conducive towards this more flexible worker. We have technology with us all the time. So it doesn't mean you can't go on a holiday and dedicate a particular time to be having virtual meetings, for instance. I know you shouldn't mix holiday and work, but what I'm saying is it doesn't mean that you have to sit at your desk in your office to still be productive.
Okay. Thank you very much for that contribution. Sholakwe, do you want to speak on imposter syndrome and how to handle it?
Oh, goodness, imposter syndrome. Wonderful. So I think for that, and I think all of us in the room, and I think particularly women, but I think for me, maybe 3 things. One, again, those champions. You need the people that are going to just be telling you how fantastic you are. They're the best thing since sliced bread, and they're just there cheering you on and telling you how amazing you are. You need that. You also need to be a champion of yourself. Fake it so you make it is real. Just keep reminding yourself why you're in the room, and the fact that so many other people didn't get in the room, but you did, and that you really are amazing. And then just as much as possible, I think someone had said earlier about asking questions early. Don't be afraid to look dumb. You're already in the room. You're not there on trial, right? Mm-hmm. Even if they think you're dumb at the beginning, they'll find out later that you're not. And then, as soon as you sit down, I find just be ready to bring your own authenticity. I'm never going to be the same as anybody. I'm very troublesome, and that's fine. But embrace who you are. Mm-hmm. And even if it's different from what everyone else is, it's perfectly fine. I remember I used to work for a consulting firm and every dress code. You wear a shirt like this and this. And I didn't like shirts, so I would wear a black sweater under my jacket. I guess I was preparing for the road, right? Without the jacket. And then made me start the dress code. But guess what? I changed that dress code in the process. So
you had to make it fashion
be
for
authentically you as well. Yes, you had to make it work for you, right? So you put it in my hand. Big mistake. I changed things around. So be authentically you, have champions that champion you and champion yourself, and you'll be fine. Fake it till you make it. You'll make it.
Oh, good. It's what you said, fake it till you make it. That's actually a good one that people get a little bit twisted. So I'm going to take the conversation back to what you mentioned around loans, getting loans, because now venture capitalists are looking to invest into the African tech economy. And of course, looking at what Lagos State is also doing, making available loans for people who want to scale up their businesses and start up. What do you think should be in the pitch deck, the right essentials that should be in the pitch deck when submitting requests for loans?
Fantastic. Well, if you're submitting requests for loans, you just have to meet the requirements. You're not trying to persuade them to give you money. They have requirements. With loans, you have to meet their requirements. With equity, you have to show them that you're aligned. You have to persuade them to invest in you. But with loans, they have terms, and once you meet those terms, you'll get the loans. But in terms of what should be in the pitch deck, so first of all, have a real authentic story for your have a real authentic product, sometimes that can take over. But really, it's about the people behind it and the why. This is the problem we're solving. This is why we're the ones to solve that problem. And that may sound a little bit woolly, but that's really what it is. Because when they see you, they see your journey, they understand why you're so passionate about this thing, why you know that it would work because you have evidence of why it works. You might be the target demographic. And if you can show them why there's so many millions or billions of you out there, then it makes it a little easier. It makes it more easy for them to be able to invest in you. For the loans for Lagos, though, I'm very happy to say we have them for different categories. So for the MSME, for small and medium-sized businesses and even micro businesses, we have low interest loans, no collateral required. They again have forms that you will fill, but essentially you just have to be a business owner in Lagos, operating in Lagos, because it's a Lagos State loan, so it has to be for Lagos State people. We've kept it a lot more simple than you would find in an average financial institution. But for startups, we also have grants, not even just loans, not top loans, but free money. We have grants that are available just for people doing things in science, technology, and other engineering and math.
As a woman in Africa and also having to push her economy, I'm sure you've had to pitch at some points for VCs and for people who are looking to invest into her economy. You can take up that conversation. Meanwhile, I would have to request for another time for this conversation with Solape. I have to get this conversation, especially the Lagos State loan. So, but Ife, you can pick up the...
Okay, so with regards to pitching for investment, I'll always tell people to just have your pitch deck and your data room. Ensure that everything is in your pitch deck. So from the reason why you start business to your value proposition to your revenue model which is literally how you make money, to the traction you've done so far. So if you're already generating revenue, you need to mention it. How long have you been in the industry? How much have you raised so far? Who are your customers? Where are they? You need to have all that information. Who's your team? So, in fact, yesterday I was speaking to someone, and as I was talking, I only spoke about what we've done and the impact and things like that. And eventually, he just asked me. He just said, I mentioned in passing that I used to manage a fund when I used to work in Nigerian Breeze. I managed like millions of dollars, and he was like, "Why didn't you say that before?" Because that would have given me more credibility in what I was saying, that it's me that can actually build that bank for women. So it's not like they don't believe that a bank for women is necessary, but he was like, why is it you that that can run this? So it's all about your background, what you've learned, the mentors or people who are guiding you, your board, your own experiences. I didn't even mention that I had done a fintech course in Oxford. So those things also help you build your credibility. In addition to raising money, so don't only look at VCs and individuals. Also look at how you can also crowdfund. So the way we raise money in our first round, in addition to the VCs and individuals that raised from, we also crowdfunded from our community, which is why building a community is very, very important. So people who already believe in your products, who are already your customers, who are already using the products or service that you're already offering, don't be scared to speak to them to see if they're interested in investing in your business. Because what more credibility do you want than for when your customers actually invest in what you're building? So I think that it's important for you to be able to bring, different perspectives and create your own table if a table is not given to you as a woman.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Ife. That's really good to know, because most people believe that, I have to get the VC. I have to get individuals to support and grow business. So we're getting messages from Solape on the loans, the lsetf.ng. They provide low interest loans, vouchers for startup to work free at hubs, and at lasric.gov.ng. They provide grants for startups and researchers up to 5 million naira for both the loans and the grants. LASRIC is also launching a catalyst fund for pre-seed startups. I think this information is really good. I will definitely get my team to put it up on our social media platform. So we're going to wrap up this conversation real quick by giving advice to different set of women. So each person would definitely be advising different groups. For Nikki, I'd like you to give advice to women who their career has gone to the left and they're trying to make it back right on track. And also for Lavina, we're looking at graduates and those seeking to maximize their gap year and develop industry-ready skills. So you'd be advising those people. And for Ife, you'd be advising those people switching careers to tech, and Solape for those building a startup businesses or growing tech-based companies in Africa. Nikki, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I would say try to analyze why you are in this current situation. There could be a number of reasons. Are you working in a toxic environment? Are you feeling like you're stuck? Are you feeling like you're not being seen and heard? Are you perhaps working in a space where you're not feeling challenged enough? So really drill down to the root cause of why you feel you're in the space, you're not progressing. And once you get to that root cause, you can then try to create solutions for yourself. If you're working in a toxic environment, well, maybe you do need to actually look for a different organization that's going to value you and your skills and what you have to bring to the organization. Are you stuck, or are you perhaps in a comfort zone because people with better skills are progressing and you are not? And various resources and opportunities were mentioned for how you could actually move into that space. But something to also examine is, are you still passionate about what you're doing? And I like to think that one's career is so finite, and if you are a go-getter and you want to be challenged, you want to make a meaningful impact as well in terms of the work that you're doing. Seek other shores, look for other opportunities. In many respects, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. And so if you just examine some of these issues I've mentioned, maybe you will see the light at the end of the tunnel. So let me stop there.
All right. Thank you very much, Nikki. Ife?
Okay, I'll just say continue to do it afraid. It's important for you. Nobody knows it all, and we're all scared, but we're still doing it, right? So it's important for you to just continue to do it afraid, and eventually you'll find yourself and you'll become successful. You'll make mistakes, but just continue to do it afraid. That's my advice to anybody who's trying to switch careers to tech.
Thank you very much. Lavina?
Yeah, I love this question because it just really speaks to, the ability of being curious and knowing the fact that nobody here ever started off as experts or as being masters in their field. So have that in the back of your mind and just let the curiosity take you and, kind of venture the path or map the path for you. Yeah, that's for me. I think it's over and above that. It's probably just have fun with it. A lot of the time, we can be very over inundated with information. We can, a lot of people kind of tell us where we should be. However, our intuition tells us we need to be somewhere else, whatever the case may be. So just allow yourself that space to have fun with all the different areas before you really decide.
All right, thank you. Solape, you're advising those building startup businesses and trying to grow their tech-based company in Africa.
A marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be quite a journey. It's very interesting that in most of our business plans, we don't have ups and downs. We only have ups, right? But guess what? There will always be ups and downs. So be ready for the journey. Don't be married to your process. Don't think, or to your product even. What you may end up doing, the value you may end up bringing to the world may be very different from where you started. But be focused on the problem that you want to solve. And don't be afraid to pivot, even if that problem ends up being the wrong problem and there's a more important problem. Just focus on the problem. And most importantly, be patient and be kind to yourself. You're doing far more than you realize because you tend to discount what you're doing and focus on what you haven't done. But always, always remember to be kind to yourself. You're special, you're phenomenal, and you're going to change the world. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much. Happy International Women's Day to each and every one of you. We appreciate sharing your time, and the words that you've spoken on the show is absolutely important to every woman out there. Even to myself, I feel quite inspired today. I feel like going and just doing more, like not even closing for the day. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate Nikki, Ife, Solape, and Lavina. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
Okay, would you like to share your social media handle for those that would like to follow up, maybe for mentorship, for more questions, or people who would want to network?
So I'm really terrible. I don't say anything on social media, but I do say things through my organization.
Okay.
So of course you can find Impact Hub Lagos. You can get a lot of support and mentorship there. Lagos State SDG and Invest. The office will be there to support you. Lazarus.gov.ng, as I've mentioned. And of course, we can send all the media handles out to the participants after this.
Okay, I'm putting up the response you sent to the group message. So
Okay,
I'm putting
fantastic.
it up on our social media handle. So maybe we would add the social media handle to it so they can
The
follow
links,
up.
yes, I'll send you the link so you can add. We want everyone to come. I mean, we had a 10 billion naira line for female-led businesses. Come and get that money, women, and let's build solutions, real solutions for the country.
Okay, Nikki, do you want to quickly drop it? Nikki's
Thank you. So again, my organization as well is at mLab is on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and myself on Twitter is at Nikki_A_K. And I'm also on LinkedIn as Nikki Koorbanally.
all right. Thank you so much. Lavina, do you want to drop a social media handle?
Yeah, thanks so much for allowing us to do that. So I represent the African Union. I represent a fund of funds called Scale Africa and an international venture capital firm called Avile. So, feel free to reach out to me on any of those, or on LinkedIn, it's Lavina Ramkissoon. On Twitter, it's at Lavina_RR. And on Instagram, it's just Lavina Ramkissoon, one word.
Thank you so much. Ife?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, good to have you. You can share your social media handle so people would like to follow.
Ife Durosinmi-Etti on Instagram. So it's IFEDURO. Once you type that, I'm sure you'd find me. On LinkedIn, I'm the same. I think it's Ife Dayo actually on LinkedIn. Ife Durosinmi-Etti. Twitter has taken down my page. I don't know what's going on. But we have HerEconomy on Twitter. So I think on Twitter it's called HerEconomy by AGS. So you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I'm very active on both Instagram and LinkedIn. So I'm happy to hear from you.
Connect, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like us to say Happy International Women's Day from ATR or from Africa Tech Radio. Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio. Can we all say that? Okay, Nikki, you can go first.
Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio.
Thank you. Solape?
Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio.
Thank you. Lavina?
Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio.
Oh, thank you. Ife?
Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio.
Thank you so much for lending your voice to Africa Tech Radio. We appreciate you and appreciate your time. Happy International Women's Day from Africa Tech Radio.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.